It started with a voicemail, not one of those clumsy pocket dials or random reminders you forget you recorded. No, this was deliberate, controlled, precise, like it had been rehearsed. I didn't hear it until hours after it had landed on my phone, sometime between my second coffee and fourth meeting. I almost deleted it without listening, but something stopped me. The timestamp, 3:47 a.m. Nobody calls at that hour unless something is wrong or very, very planned. So I sat in my car, parked outside the grocery store, holding a plastic bag with a single loaf of bread and some stupid kale she'd insisted we needed. And I played it. Her voice. Flat. Cold. No, hey. No, I need to talk. No emotion, just this. You're going to be hearing from someone. Don't contact me. Just deal with him directly from now on. This is over. That was it. 15 seconds. She didn't even say my name. She didn't say hers. Like she was reading a script she didn't write herself. Like her voice had been rented for the performance. I just sat there with the engine idling, the bread slowly getting crushed under my fingers. There was no panic in her voice. No anger. Just absence. Absence of anything I thought I knew about her. By the time I walked through the front door of our apartment, something felt surgically removed from my chest. She wasn't there. Not just physically gone, no coat, no shoes, no scent in the air. Even the lights were off, like the space itself was trying to forget she ever existed in it. On the dining table was a yellow envelope. No name on the front, just a business card inside. Marvin Blake, attorney at law. No address, just a phone number and email. A red dot on the corner like some kind of marker. I remember staring at that dot longer than I did the name. I didn't call him that night. Instead, I walked through every room like I was a guest in someone else's life. Bathroom drawers half empty. Closet doors ajar. Her perfume missing, her shoes, her black leather notebook where she wrote down ideas for her online boutique, all gone. Only thing left was an upside-down mug in the sink and a single earring on the windowsill. Not the kind she usually wore. This one was cheap. Gaudy. Not hers. I knew every piece of jewelry she owned. So I called the number the next morning. The man who answered sounded like a rusted hinge. Dry voice. Measured words. He spoke in legally wrapped sentences that didn't care about my confusion or anger. She has requested we handle all communication through our office. We're filing this Friday. You'll receive paperwork via email and certified mail. Please confirm your address. I didn't confirm anything. Instead, I showed up at his office. Unannounced. The receptionist was young. Blonde. Looked at me like she wasn't sure if I was a threat or a mistake. When I told her who I was, she hesitated before picking up the phone. Whispered something. Then nodded toward the hallway. He was already waiting by the door of his office. Older man. Late 50s. Neatly trimmed beard. His suit was expensive, but worn like it had seen better days. And when I said, "I'm her husband," something happened to him. He didn't gasp. He didn't stammer. But his eyes did something strange. They didn't widen. They tightened, as if he'd been holding in a breath and someone punched it out of him. His hands trembled just slightly. He stepped back like he expected me to lunge at him. I didn't move. I just stood there watching this man fall apart one invisible piece at a time. He asked me to sit. I didn't. He shut the door behind us slowly and then said, "There are things I was instructed not to tell you. But now that you're here," he paused, looked down, picked at a speck of dust on his sleeve. "There may be some complications regarding the property and joint accounts. And other things. It's not a standard divorce." I didn't understand what he meant by other things. Not yet. But I could feel the floor tilting. There was a hole somewhere beneath me and I was inching toward it. He handed me a document. I took it without reading. Then I asked him one question. "Is she seeing someone else?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The way he looked away was louder than any confession. But that wasn't the worst part. Because just as I turned to leave, his voice cracked for the first time. Just a sliver. "There's something you should see. But I need to make a decision about that. Give me until tomorrow." And just like that, the game changed. She hadn't just left me. She'd built something. A lie, maybe. Or a trap. And I was already inside it. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was restless or angry or heartbroken. Those things were happening too, of course, but this was different. It felt like I was watching a shadow move behind a wall, and no matter how many times I looked, I couldn't catch the shape of it. That lawyer, Marvin Blake, he saw something in me. The way he stared. The way his hand trembled before he adjusted his watch. I'd never seen a man try so hard not to tell the truth. And yet he said, "Give me until tomorrow." What the hell kind of divorce lawyer needs a day to decide what a husband should know? The next morning, I didn't go to work. I sat on the couch in the living room, if I can even call it living anymore, waiting for a message, a call, something. But nothing came. Not until 3:02 p.m. An email. No subject. Just a file attachment. PDF. The name of the file was a date. Nothing else. 02_12_meeting_room. I downloaded it. There were photos. Grainy but clear enough. Security footage stills. 7 of them. Each one stamped with a timestamp from a high-end hotel conference center downtown. I knew the place. We'd been there once for a charity dinner. Back when we were still pretending to be in love. The first image, her. My wife. Dressed like she was on the cover of a fashion magazine. Hair slicked back. Heels she only wore when she wanted something from someone. Her face wasn't smiling, but it was alive in a way I hadn't seen in months. Second image. Her walking into a room labeled private clients only with a man. I'd never seen him before. He was tall, military posture, early 40s maybe. Clean cut. His hand was on her back. Not suggestive. Possessive. Like he owned her. Like he'd been allowed to. The next few photos were them inside the room. Her hand on his chest. Her leaning in, whispering. And then, God, the 6th photo. She was holding a piece of paper in front of him, and both of them were laughing. I zoomed in. The paper had my name on it. Not a joke. Not some blurred coincidence. It was my name. My full legal name. Typed. Highlighted. The last image? She was leaving the room. Alone. Smiling. There was no kiss. No embrace. Just that damn smile. Like she'd closed a deal she'd been working on for years. I stared at that last image until the corners of the screen blurred. My stomach turned cold. It wasn't about cheating. It was something else. Something deeper. She had been planning. That same night, Marvin called. I wasn't supposed to send that, he said, no greeting. Technically, I'm breaching privilege. But she didn't tell me the full story. I thought I was helping a woman escape a cold marriage. But now I see she's not escaping. She's executing. I asked him, who is the man in the pictures? His pause was long enough to be painful. I don't know. And that scares me. I wanted to yell. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. But I didn't. I kept my voice steady. What else is she hiding? I think you should check your joint investments, he said quietly. And your father's trust, if you still have access. That hit me like a slap. My father's trust fund. A 7-figure safety net left in both our names after his passing. We hadn't touched it. Not once. It was supposed to be for our future family. College, a house maybe. Things we never got around to because she was always not ready. I logged into the financial account. It was empty. 0. Withdrawn in chunks. Transferred out over 3 weeks. Clean. Hidden. No alert sent to my email. I stared at the screen. I could feel the blood draining from my hands. This wasn't betrayal. It was sabotage. She hadn't left me. She'd gutted me. Quietly. Strategically. And now she had disappeared behind a lawyer and a locked door. But the one mistake she made. Marvin. That tiny, shaking man had a conscience. And now I had a copy of the photos. I replied to his email with 2 words. Tell me everything. Marvin didn't respond for hours. I kept refreshing my inbox, checking my spam folder, even texting the number he'd used before. Nothing. Radio silence. For a man who had already risked his career by sending me those photos, I should have known he wasn't going to jump straight into the fire. But I didn't care. I needed answers, and I was done waiting. At 8:41 p.m., the phone finally rang. No greeting, just his voice. Hushed, rushed. "I have 10 minutes, he said. "You'll record nothing. You'll share nothing. Not until you understand what she's done." I told him I wasn't recording. I wasn't even breathing, not properly. I was just listening to the sound of my entire life being peeled apart like wallpaper, one strip at a time. "She didn't come to me as your wife," he began. "She came as a client with a business proposition. Told me she was divorcing you, that there were assets in your name you wouldn't give up easily. Asked how airtight prenups are. Asked how to move funds without triggering bank alerts." He paused. I could hear papers being shuffled. "She told me you'd grown unstable, that you were emotionally manipulative, that if things went public, it could get dangerous. That's how she convinced me to handle things quietly. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to." He knew now what kind of lie he'd been sold. "But I noticed inconsistencies," he went on. "Her tone shifted every time she spoke about you. She didn't sound like someone afraid. She sounded like someone playing a part. So I did what I wasn't supposed to do. I ran her name." He said her name like it was a riddle now, not a person. "And I found something. 5 years ago, she registered a holding company. Fake name, offshore address. Never declared on your taxes. Then 2 years ago, she purchased a property in Connecticut under that shell. Paid cash. I traced the funding. It came from your joint brokerage, split over a year into micro-transfers. I was gripping the phone so hard I almost cracked it. She's not planning to disappear," he said. "She's relocating. Entirely. New identity. She already has a new residence and a new name filed with the state under legal transition paperwork. And then the dagger. She filed those forms before she ever left your apartment." I leaned back into the wall, the breath sucked out of me. She'd been preparing this while sleeping beside me, while brushing her teeth next to mine, while asking me if we had almond milk. "I can't tell you more," Marvin said. "If she finds out I've said this much, I'm finished." I asked him one last thing. "Who's the man in the photo?" There was a beat. "I don't know his name, but he's connected to her through that offshore company. His name appears on the same purchase documents in 2 other states. He's not her boyfriend. He's her partner. Business. Legal. Possibly more. But he's not new." So that was it. The man in the photos wasn't the affair. He was the accomplice. I ended the call. Sat in silence. Didn't cry. Didn't yell. Just thought. Tried to stitch the last 6 months of my life into something that made sense. But the thread was gone. Later that night, I went back to that yellow envelope she'd left me on the table. I opened it again. But this time I looked at the backside of the business card. A handwritten note. Just 5 words. "I always hated your honesty." She had written it with a flourish. Like it was a final insult. Or maybe a gift. Something to haunt me. But I didn't feel haunted. I felt ready. I wasn't going to beg her back. I was going to find out everything. She stole from me. Lied to me. Built a new world while destroying mine. And now? Now it was my turn to move. There's a moment right after a lightning strike when the light is gone, but the echo is still ringing, vibrating everything. That's where I was. Except the lightning was the truth and the echo was everything I thought I knew collapsing into ash. She wasn't cheating. She was erasing me. And doing it so methodically it felt surgical. By the time the sun came up, I'd already gathered what I needed: account numbers, old emails, login access to our shared cloud. I'd never cared much for her online life before, but now I was hunting. First place I checked, the Google Drive we used for tax documents. The one she always said wasn't syncing right when I asked her to upload something. Buried inside a folder labeled Receipts Q3 was a subfolder. Locked. Password protected. Took me 9 tries. The 10th? Our wedding date. The one she told everyone was her luckiest day. Inside, a document dump. Scans of letters. Screenshots of texts. A photo of a fake driver's license with her face. but not her name. Lease agreements. One in Connecticut, one in Miami, one in Mexico City, all signed electronically, all connected to that shell company Marvin had discovered. And then one video file. It was taken from her phone. I knew because I saw the cracked corner of her screen in the footage. She dropped it last winter. It was short, 34 seconds, but it took something from me I'll never get back. She was sitting on our couch. The couch I was still sitting on. Legs crossed, glass of red wine in hand. That man was with her. The one from the hotel. But this time his face was clearer. Still no name. Just that same cold smile. They were laughing. About me. He said something like, he really doesn't know? And she replied, he's loyal. Like a dog. Loyal right up to the moment he gets put down. He laughed again. She didn't. She just looked at the camera dead on like she knew I'd see this one day. And said, tell him nothing. Let the lawyer squirm. That was when I snapped. Not in a rage kind of way. Not the screaming, throwing, breaking things reaction most would expect. No, I got quiet. Like the moment before a storm tears through a city. I realized something. I had underestimated her every single step of the way. She wasn't just leaving. She was building a new empire from my bones. So I made a call. There's a guy I knew from college. Dan. Smart. Paranoid. Makes a living doing cybersecurity work for corporations, mostly gray area stuff. He owed me a favor. Saved his ass once during a plagiarism case that could have wrecked him. I didn't tell him much, just that I needed to trace an IP from a video sent from a locked Google Drive, and I needed to do it yesterday. He said give him a few hours. While I waited, I went full recon. Called my bank's fraud department. Pretended to be concerned about suspicious activity and requested a formal review of account withdrawals from the past 12 months. They didn't want to give it to me, privacy protocols even for shared accounts. But I pushed. I mentioned the trust fund, legal language, possible embezzlement. An hour later I had the report. She hadn't just bled the accounts. She'd done it in sync with my work schedule. Withdrawals made precisely during meetings, flights, presentations, times I was completely offline. Which meant she had access to my calendar. My phone. My life in real time. She hadn't been reacting to my ignorance. She'd been timing it. Just before midnight, Dan texted me back. Got something. Sending coordinates now. I opened the file. The IP address from the video was tagged to an Airbnb. Not a house. A private yacht docked off Stamford, Connecticut. Registered under the name Caspian Blue Incorporated. I Googled it. Nothing. So I checked the Airbnb listing itself, still active. Booked through the end of the month. And in the reviews? There it was. A 5-star comment from a user named Ms. R. Blackwell. Her middle name is Rose. And the profile picture? A low-lit selfie. Sunglasses. Sunset. But I could still see the ring she used to wear. My mother's. That yacht wasn't just a hideout. It was their new base of operations. I stared at the photo. And I made a decision. This doesn't end with emails and lawyers. She started a war while I was still playing house. So I booked a hotel in Stamford. And I'm going there. Not to fight. To confront. To see what a woman like her looks like when her mask finally cracks. Stamford smelled like salt and money. The kind of place where secrets go to wash themselves clean and come back as something respectable. I arrived just after noon, checked into a soulless hotel with mirrors on every wall and carpets that hadn't been replaced since the Bush administration. I didn't need luxury. I needed proximity. The marina was walking distance. I waited until dusk when movement on the docks blended into background noise, dog walkers, joggers, couples pretending not to be watching each other's phones. I wore plain clothes, a hat pulled low, sunglasses at night like an idiot, but I wasn't trying to hide from everyone. Just from her. I spotted the yacht within seconds. Caspian blue. Sleek. White. The kind of boat that doesn't scream wealth, it whispers it. I walked past once, pretending to check my phone. Lights were on inside. Shadows moving. 2 of them. Her and him. I looped around again. Slower this time. A figure stepped onto the deck. Her. Holding a glass. Wearing a robe. I stopped. Not visibly. Not dramatically. Just stilled. She hadn't seen me yet. I studied her face, same profile I used to trace with my finger at night. Same hair she said she hated but never changed. But something about her posture was different. Not relaxed. Not graceful. Triumphant. Like she'd made it to the finish line and was watching the rest of us crawl behind her. I stepped out of the shadows and walked to the dock. Her eyes met mine. No surprise. No panic. Just the slow, practiced smile, like I was exactly where she expected me to be. "Hello," she said, calm as anything. "Took you long enough?" I said nothing. Just stared. She gestured with her drink. "You going to come aboard or keep lurking like a lunatic?" I stepped onto the boat. Inside, he was waiting. The man from the photos. From the video. From the shadows of everything I'd been piecing together. He didn't say a word. Just nodded once, arms folded like he was sizing me up for a coffin. I turned back to her. "Why?" Her smile faded, but only slightly. "Why what? Left you? Took what was mine." "You mean stole." She laughed. "Oh, don't be dramatic. You think I didn't earn every cent? Every moment of silence I endured in that apartment? You think being married to you was some kind of vacation? What is this?" I asked, voice low. "A game? Some twisted experiment to see how long it'd take before I broke?" She sipped her drink. "No. It was always about getting free. You just took longer to let go than I planned." I looked around. This yacht. The properties. The money. The lawyer. The identity change. That's not someone trying to get free. That's someone running a con. Her eyes snapped. "You call it a con. I call it insurance. You think I didn't see the signs? You, stuck in your routines, waiting for me to fall back into line, asking questions without really listening. You were so easy to outmaneuver." My fists clenched, but I didn't move. "And him." She glanced at her partner, then back at me. "He believes in me. He doesn't try to fix me. He doesn't ask me to be a wife. We're partners. Builders." I laughed, not out of humor, out of something rawer. "Builders? You built your empire out of lies and stolen money." She stepped forward. "No, we built it out of opportunity. You just happened to be standing in the wrong place at the right time." The man finally spoke. "You should go now." I didn't even look at him. My eyes were on her. "This isn't over," I said quietly. She stepped closer. Close enough for me to smell the expensive perfume she never wore around me. "Oh, but it is," she whispered. "By the time you figure out the next piece, I'll already be gone." And then, like it was nothing, she kissed my cheek. Not with love. With finality. I turned. Walked off the yacht. I didn't look back. Not yet. But I was already planning my next move. Because she was wrong. It wasn't over. She'd left one door open and I had just found it. The moment my shoes hit the dock again, I felt the shift. Not in the air, not in the wind, in me. Something had snapped into place. I had stood face to face with the woman who dismantled my life like a chessboard and smiled while doing it. She thought I was done. She thought the game was over. She didn't know I had already seen her next move. And I had no intention of staying off the board. Back at the hotel, I connected to the guest Wi-Fi, opened my laptop, and pulled up the full financial audit I'd requested from the bank. I had read it before, sure. But now I read it like a predator. She made a mistake. Among all the careful transfers, hidden paths, and buried accounts, there was one transaction that didn't fit her style. A wire of $8,000 sent 3 weeks ago to an account registered to a company I didn't recognize. No offshore address. No digital smokescreen. Just a name. Halberd Security Solutions. I Googled it. The website was practically empty. No about us. No staff photos. Just a stock image of a man in a suit looking into a CCTV feed and a tagline. Protection. Precision. Privacy. A security firm. Private. Probably unlicensed. And paid in cash. She was scared of something. That wire wasn't a withdrawal, it was a retainer. I called Dan again. Told him everything. I mean everything. He didn't hesitate. "Give me 6 hours," he said. "But if they're who I think they are, you won't like what I find." I didn't wait. I spent the next few hours combing through emails, phone logs, even old voicemails she never deleted. And there, hidden in plain sight, was a name. A man she'd mentioned once, years ago. "An old friend from back home," she said, when I asked who was texting her at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. Back then I let it slide. His name? Dorian Keats. I never met him, but his name was burned into my brain now, because he was the listed co-founder of Halberd Security Solutions. Dan called me just after midnight. "You're not going to believe this," he said, and he was right. Halberd wasn't just a private firm. It was a front. Dorian's name was tied to multiple LLCs, all registered across 3 different states. Each one opened and closed within a year. All of them under investigation for fraud, digital surveillance, and one serious claim: identity manipulation. He wasn't just watching people. He was replacing them. That's when I realized why she paid him. Not for protection, for preparation. She wasn't just building a new life. She was destroying mine, pixel by pixel, replacing my digital trail with false flags, rewriting my financial history, creating a version of me that couldn't fight back because he didn't exist anymore. And she thought I wouldn't find it. But now I had Dorian's address. He wasn't on a yacht. He was in a warehouse 20 minutes outside the city. And I was going there, not to confront, to collect. I didn't tell anyone, didn't bring anything. Just drove through the empty Connecticut roads with a silence so loud it nearly cracked my windshield. When I arrived, the place looked abandoned. But the lights were on inside. And through the cracked window of the side office, I saw it. Stacks of printed documents. Photos. My face. Circled in red ink. Beside it, a document labeled Brandon V. Phase 2. That's when I understood. She hadn't just tried to disappear. She had planned to make it look like I never existed at all. I stood at the threshold of that warehouse with the door slightly ajar and my past, present, and future stacked neatly inside. The fluorescent light overhead flickered like it was struggling to stay alive, humming with a sound that felt too close to panic. I pushed the door open. No security system. No guard dogs. No cameras. Just silence. It was too easy, which made it wrong. Inside, the place was cleaner than I expected, not spotless, not professional, but methodical. Folders lined 2 long metal tables, each labeled with initials. Most weren't mine, but one section was dedicated entirely to BV Alpha. Me. They'd assigned me a project name. I stepped closer. The first file, bank records, copies of my passport, credit score fluctuations over the last 18 months. Even fake transactions I never made, inserted into scanned statements like poison into a drink. A printed image of my LinkedIn profile, archived. Comments and photos I didn't remember posting. One of them was dated a week from now. That's when it hit me. They weren't just erasing me. They were rebuilding me wrong. I found another document. A script. It was titled Phase 2, Deterioration Narrative. Line by line, they'd written an entire psychological profile. Fabricated stories of emotional breakdowns, work instability, a pending restraining order from my wife. Signed affidavits forged from her and neighbors attesting to erratic behavior. Every lie was documented, formatted, and ready to be submitted. I was reading the future they planned for me. A version of me who was paranoid, dangerous, unpredictable. A man who'd eventually vanish without question because everything around him would suggest that it was inevitable. They were rewriting my exit. But then I found something worse. In a separate folder labeled Collateral Assets, Non-Public, was a USB drive tucked into a foam slot like it was some sacred artifact. I didn't ask permission from my conscience. I plugged it into my laptop. Password protected. 5 tries before lockout. I guessed her name. Nothing. Then the man's, Dorian. Nothing. Then I tried the name from the Airbnb review. Mizar Blackwell. It unlocked. Inside, 3 folders. Audio logs, deep drafts, trigger package. I opened audio logs first. They weren't hers. They were mine. Clips of my voice, taken from phone calls, voicemails, meetings. Spliced. Edited. Stitched together into sentences I'd never spoken. I never meant to hurt her. I just wanted her gone. Sometimes I think about ending it. She pushed me. I snapped. Each file named like court exhibits. These weren't just recordings. They were evidence in waiting. I opened deep drafts next. Emails. Hundreds of them. sent from dummy accounts registered to my name with timestamps backdated. Each one laced with enough red flags to paint me as a lunatic. Threats, apologies, unhinged confessions. To her, to coworkers, to myself. All prepped, none sent, yet. And finally, trigger package. One file, PDF. I hesitated, then opened it. My heart stopped. It was a police report, filed under my name. Not submitted, drafted. The alleged incident, domestic assault. Timestamp 3 weeks from now. Attached, fake ER report, false bruising photos on her body, photoshopped, and a psychological evaluation recommending I be placed under psychiatric supervision. There was a statement at the bottom, victim requests no charges be pressed, but fears for her safety. Victim. Her. They weren't just wiping me out financially. They were engineering a version of me that no one would defend. Not even me. I stood there in the center of the room, files open, lies floating like ghosts around me. My lungs couldn't hold enough air. My mind was a furnace. She had made me the villain of a story I hadn't even started reading. And then I heard it. The soft click of a door unlocking behind me. I spun, and she walked in. Alone. Calm. Not shocked. Not caught. She knew I'd be here. She tilted her head, almost impressed. Curiosity really is your fatal flaw, she said. I stared at her, unable to speak. She walked past me, slow, tracing her fingers over the open folders, the printed lies, the invented madness. You weren't supposed to find this until it was too late, she said, like she was disappointed in herself. But that's on me. I underestimated you. Why? I asked, voice hoarse. She smiled. Not cruel. Not victorious. Professional. Because I had to become someone else. And to do that, I had to destroy who I was. She met my eyes. You. She stood in front of me like she was giving a presentation. Not like she had just admitted to orchestrating a digital and psychological extinction of the man she once married. Her expression was too calm. Her voice too even. It wasn't coldness, it was precision. I thought you might scream, she said, glancing down at the open folders. Or throw something. But this is better. I couldn't move. Couldn't trust my own body. She walked around the table, slow, deliberate, every movement practiced. This wasn't panic. This was rehearsed. You want the truth? She asked. You think that'll make any of this easier to swallow? I managed to speak. Start talking. She nodded once, like she'd been waiting for permission. Then she leaned against the table and began to unravel it all, not with guilt, with pride. I never wanted the life we built. Not really. I tried to. I tried to be that person, the wife, the partner, the normal. But it always felt like a costume. And eventually, I couldn't stand the feel of it anymore. I interrupted. So you destroy me instead? That's your version of undressing. No, she said softly. I didn't destroy you. I removed what was in the way. There's a difference. That line, like I was a roadblock, not a human. I took a step forward. Why not just leave? Why this whole production? She looked almost sad for a second. Then she laughed just once. You still don't get it. I didn't need to just leave. I needed to disappear completely. The woman you knew, the woman I pretended to be, she had debts. Promises. Attachments. She was someone else's version of me. Yours. My parents. Society's. She stepped closer. I wasn't born to live in anyone's idea of who I should be. I was born to rewrite it. To become untouchable. And to do that, I had to make sure there was nothing, no one, who could claim they ever knew the real me. I asked the question I didn't want to ask but couldn't stop myself from asking. So who is he? The man on the boat. Your partner. She smiled again. Different this time. Not fond. Strategic. Dorian, she said. He's not my lover. He's a collaborator. He specializes in the kind of transitions people like me need. He's helped people vanish. Rebuild. Reinvent. This, she gestured at the files, this is art to him. I wanted to vomit. So what now? I asked. You're just going to vanish? Let this all hit me like a bomb and walk away. She tilted her head. Not quite. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out an envelope, thick, sealed, black wax over the seam. What is that? She held it out. You're out. I didn't take it. I don't want money. It's not money, she said. It's clearance. Access codes, legal paperwork, and a full packet of what's left of your digital life sanitized. You walk away with enough to rebuild. Quietly. Far from me. I stared at her. So this is a payoff. A silence contract. She nodded. Exactly. You disappear, I disappear. No more war. No more shadows. I looked at the envelope. Then at her. And that's when I realized something. She wasn't making an offer. She was testing me. This was the final page in her script, the part where the discarded man either vanishes in shame or lashes out and fulfills the unhinged narrative she's already filed. Either way, she wins. Unless I do something she never anticipated. I'm not taking it, I said. She blinked slowly. Just once. That would be a mistake. No, I said, stepping closer, calmer than I'd felt in weeks. It's the only move you didn't predict. And now I know everything. She paused, calculated, and then said something I'll never forget. I don't lose. I transform. Remember that. I left the envelope on the table, walked past her, and didn't stop until I was in the car, door shut, heart pounding like a war drum. But I wasn't done. She thought she knew how this would end. She didn't know what I still had in my back pocket. Because I'd already sent the files to someone else. Someone dangerous to her that I drove straight through the night. Rain hammering the windshield like it was trying to pull me off the road. But nothing could have stopped me. Not anymore. The envelope she offered sat untouched on the passenger seat. A trophy I didn't want. It didn't matter. Because her biggest mistake wasn't what she did to me. It was thinking I had no one left. She forgot about Ava. Ava wasn't a friend. She wasn't family. She was something far more dangerous to a person like my wife, a forensic financial investigator with a mean streak, a history with me, and an almost obsessive hatred of frauds. We dated briefly in the past, long before I met the woman who just tried to erase me. When it ended, we stayed connected barely. But that thin thread was enough. 2 days before I went to the yacht, I sent her a compressed file with no explanation. Just a message, if I disappear, this is why. When I got back to my hotel, phone dead, clothes soaked, there were 12 missed calls from her and one message that changed everything. Call me. Now. This goes deeper than her. I called. She picked up instantly, no greeting. What the hell did you just hand me? She was trying to destroy my identity. Replace me. I found everything, digital forgeries, legal drafts, a fake mental health profile. Even a prep police report. Ava didn't even pause. It's not just you, Brandon. I ran the shell corporations you mentioned. That offshore account, the one tied to the yacht, it links back to a funding chain that shows movement between 3 known identity laundering operations. My blood ran cold. She kept going. She's not just rebuilding her life. She's part of a network. These people don't just fake new names. They erase the past of anyone who could expose them. You're not the first. You might not even be the 5th. I gripped the phone tighter. How far does it go? I'm working with a contact in the Treasury Department now, Ava said. If we move quietly, we can dismantle the financial chain before they know we're in it. But you need to send me everything. Videos, USB contents, email threads. I want the lawyer's name too. Marvin. The shaky man who had cracked under pressure. He didn't know he was part of a larger scheme, but if Ava was right, he was a cog in a machine designed to turn people like me into digital ghosts. I gave her his name. She went quiet for a moment. Then, he's registered as legal counsel on another divorce case I flagged 2 years ago. Woman disappeared. Husband had a mental breakdown. Whole thing was buried. Same signature on the financial docs. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was exposure. She was part of a system that targeted men like me, stable, financially secure, emotionally isolated, and dismantled us piece by piece until nothing was left to fight back. But she picked the wrong one this time. I told Ava everything. Even about the warehouse. Even that I'd seen her face to face. You were lucky, Ava said. She's done playing games. If she knows you won't take her offer, you've become a liability. That means she'll trigger the final stage. What's that? Simple, she said. She buries you. Publicly. She has the files. The recordings. If she releases them, it becomes your word against a curated narrative. You won't win in court. Not with her head start. I stared at the ceiling. Thought of the photos. The fake texts. The police report with my name on it. So what do I do? Ava's voice was steady, colder now. Focused. You hit first. She laid it out in clean, brutal logic. We send the entire data package to Treasury, attach a whistleblower petition to it. Simultaneously, Ava leaks selected evidence to a private cybersecurity collective that specializes in exposing coordinated fraud schemes. While they're busy lighting fires under her feet, we subpoena Marvin as a cooperating witness. He's the weak link, the one person who never really knew what he was a part of. And if he flips, everything collapses. I nodded to myself, even though she couldn't see me. I'll do it. And as I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt since this started. Not hope. Not peace. Control. She thought she'd written the last page. She was wrong. I still had the pen.it started with a knock at Marvin Blake's office. Not mine. Not Ava's. Treasury's. A mid-level federal investigator in a nondescript gray suit served him with a subpoena and a quiet warning: cooperate or get swallowed with the rest of them. Marvin didn't last 5 minutes. The man who once shook at the mention of my name folded like cheap furniture. Turned over emails, bank wires, signed documents, his entire cache of communications with her and the shell companies. She had trusted him with everything, and he gave it up for nothing. By the time I woke up the next morning, Ava had already spun the wheels into motion. She coordinated the leak. A carefully timed drop across 5 encrypted channels, whistleblower files, legal paperwork, audio corruption samples, forged financial statements. She labeled the zip folder, Operation Echo, the disappearance factory. Within an hour, it was viral inside underground cybersecurity networks. By midday, Treasury had issued a formal investigation into Caspian Blue Incorporated. By sunset, 3 burner properties, including the yacht, were red-flagged for asset seizure. And by nightfall, she called me. She did. Not a lawyer. Not a hitman. Her. I didn't recognize the number. She still had that trick in her pocket. But I picked up. The first word she said was, "You really had to be the last man standing, huh?" No rage. No panic. But something new. Uncertainty. I said nothing. She let silence hang. I could hear her breathing. It was the first time I'd heard her without a script. Then she said, "You've complicated things." I finally spoke. "You tried to end me. You were never the endgame," she said. "You were the rehearsal. I needed to learn how far I could go." "And what did you learn?" Another pause. Then, "That next time, I'll pick someone with less spine." There it was, the mask again. That paper-thin contempt disguised as composure. But the cracks were there now. I could hear them in her tone. "You're done," I said, calm and steady. "They know everything. The documents. The dummy core. The audio manipulation. The money trail. They have it all. And Marvin? He gave you up so fast I almost felt sorry for you." She exhaled. A slow hiss. Like a tire losing pressure. "You always thought I was the villain," she said, almost like it amused her. "You are," I replied. "Just not a very good one." Then I hung up. And that was the last time I heard her voice. By week's end, she was gone, not vanished, not like before. Exposed. Her accounts frozen. Her assets seized. Her partner, Dorian, vanished before a warrant could be issued. But the trail was open now. Treasury would follow the money, and eventually they'd catch him too. Ava sent me one last email. No subject. Just, "The system is real. But so are we. You brought it down." I sat in my apartment that night, the same one she once called a prison, drinking water from the glass she'd left behind. I looked around at the walls she tried to paint me out of. And I felt nothing for her anymore. Not hate. Not love. Not even bitterness. Just clarity. I rebuilt my name. My accounts. My legal identity. Slowly. Carefully. Ava helped. Quietly. No headlines. No lawsuits. No dramatics. Just one man, reclaiming his shadow. If you're reading this and think your partner is just acting weird, or drifting, ask more questions. Look deeper. Because sometimes it's not emotional distance. Sometimes it's strategy. I was never her husband. I was a scaffold she used to climb out of the skin she wanted to shed. She thought she could erase me, but I learned the most powerful revenge isn't exposing someone. It's surviving them and being seen. Brandon.